Osio, Ila Sequichie Taguatoa. My name is Eli Sequichie, and I was born up around Burnt Cabin area in 1942. We lived in that Burnt Cabin area till I was about 8 years old. And then from Burnt Cabin, Park Hill, we moved in 1950. And my dad was John Sequichie, and my mother was Peggy Dick, maiden name. There was me, Esther, and Jim Sequichie, my brother. There's only three of us left. I would like to take you back when I was a youth, back in Burnt Cabin area. I remember pretty well in 1943, just about a year and a half old. I remember real well, where we lived and how we lived. We lived in an old two-room log cabin, dirt floor. In the summertime, we'd just gather up some burlap bags and sack them up and use them for mattresses to lay on. It was pretty hard back them times. It wasn't easy. There was no jobs out in the country, that people could make a good living at. Mostly people, my dad, they just cut wood for people, neighbors. 50 cents a rick. And when they got all that wood cutting done, well, they'd start making railroad ties. And then they'd be up in the mountain all day long, chopping wood down, making ties. And they had no dinner because there wasn't very much food to be got when you live out in the country. 50 cents a rick, and railroad tie was about like, maybe 6, 7 cents a tie back them old days. Carry them off down the mountain, load them in a wagon, horse-drawn wagon, and then they'd bring them into town. And in the summertime, we'd go out and help Mama grow a garden, whatever she was going to put out. Well, I said I played around mostly when I was a kid. Sometime I'd plant me an onion or something like that, 2, 3, then I'd take off again and go play, throwing rocks and then running down the hill and playing on a stick horse, get me a stick horse and I'd ride it down the hill. And I didn't have any clothes at that time when I was about 4 years of age. I wore a dress till I was about 7. And then the first pair of jeans I got, it was a hand-me-down. But I was so proud of it. I was glad to get out of them dresses. We didn't hardly get no shoes back then, because money was real scarce for us. You don't just get it like you do now, back then. I understood everything that a white man said at that early age. Even when my dad had to visit other, people, white people, they'd stop by and say, "Hello, John, how you doing?" I could understand that, but I couldn't speak it. I didn't know one word of English. I couldn't speak one word of English when I went to school, when I started school. You talk about a hard time now. I was 8 years old here at Park Hill before I hit my first schoolyard. And then I was already too old to be in the primer, but I came. So I stayed around till I was 3rd grade. My goodness, I was over 12 years old. Sometimes my cousins, my brother and our cousin, they both had an axe apiece. And then we'd go out in the woods And that see those bird nest. Said, Eli, go get that bird nest off of that tree. Boy, I tried climbing, work hard climbing. Sometimes I would have no limbs till a while, you know. And when I got started going up, just before I got to that bird nest, they start chopping that tree down. I was just about 5 years old then. Man, here we'd come, tree and all. We had some goats, so we used to ride them goats. Boy, we was having rodeo, me and my brother and my sister. 'Cause we had some kids come over, you know, neighbor kids, you know, our cousins. They'd come over and we'd ride them goats. Sometimes we'd ride them hogs. We'd them hogs, they wouldn't do nothing but run, you know, when you got on them. Boy, look out, water in the mud hole. I used to sit around and listen to old folks conversation, you know, in the shade in the yard somewhere. And they would tell me all these different things that I see today. And they would tell me exactly what was going to be like in my generation, in my days, which I'm sitting in now. And so far, it's not missing anything, what they said. It's happening. Who want to hear the when sun? Aquí estoy yo, no way, no, no,